Welcome to Herbalist and Herbs. My name is Harry Chrysikis. Today's video is short, estrogen and breast cancer. Now I took on this subject because it's an area of confusion, and the things I'm going to speak about could function in both a preventative program in relationship to breast cancer and to assist people with breast cancer. Now there are a number of things I'm going to talk about in terms of estrogen, but I'm going to start out with one of the major theories about estrogen, and that is lifetime exposure to estrogen for a woman. Now, estrogen is a player in many cancers, not just breast cancer. There are estrogen receptors on our brain, in our lungs. There are estrogen receptors on the prostate. But of course, it's most well known for its creating problems in a woman's breast, because breast cancer is an epidemic right now. 1 in 7 women will get it within their lifetime, and that's a pretty astounding figure. But to get back to one of the risk factors that are taken on in terms of a woman's risk in terms of getting breast cancer, and that is lifetime exposure to estrogen. Now, that's based on a theory that a woman in the past, in past history, say in the 1800s, would have many children, and also during that period would be breastfeeding all of them. She might have 10 children. That may cover a period of 20 years. In all that time, she was never exposed to her estrogen levels because she was either pregnant or lactating. In both cases, estrogen is depressed. The problem with that is that many women who get diagnosed with breast cancer now have had multiple children. That's one thing that challenges that theory. The other thing is that it is also presupposing that if you're exposed to estrogen and have many more cycles as women do now, that is, they start menstruating younger and they get menopause later, that because of that excess amount of periods, there's an excess exposure to estrogen, and therefore there's a greater chance of getting cancer. Women's cancers in general, but breast cancer specifically. The problem with that is that it's saying that if you're not in this state of pregnancy or lactation, that you're at risk. And also by the fact that I mentioned before that plenty of women have had kids and still get breast cancer. But to get back to this theory, the fact is that what I think is missing in the view of estrogen is that it's not the estrogen per se, but the imbalance of estrogen in a woman's cycle over long periods of time. In many women, in my practice, I've been treating women for over 20 years and helping them in these areas, is that you'll find that many women consider things normal in terms of their cycling, which are absolutely abnormal. And that is things like irregular periods, heavy clotting, heavy cramping, bad PMS, bloating, heavy edema. All these things are telling a person that there's something wrong going on in their body, and that they show up around their period, of course, which indicates that something is wrong with their hormonal cycle. Now, if this goes on for 10 or 20 or 30 years, yes, this should be considered, this thing should be looked at, which it is not, this area, as an independent risk factor for all female cancers. So the idea that because you're exposed to estrogen over many periods really doesn't make sense to me. A woman's body is designed to have periods, no matter how many she has, but they need to be balanced. They need to be balanced, and the hormones need to be balanced in relationship to each other, and she needs to be able to get rid of them as well. Which is another area that we need to go in, and that is the excretion of estrogens from a woman's body. The idea that her body manufactures very strong forms of estrogen is a right one. Estrogen is supposed to be a proliferative hormone. It is quite powerful. There are multiple forms of it, but the two top forms of it are quite powerful in terms of pushing cell division. They're supposed to. The problem is not that a woman has estrogen, it's that it is imbalanced in her body. And it can be imbalanced through a number of things. First thing could be through a long history of imbalanced periods, which have set up a cycle in the body that's incorrect. The next thing could be that she can't detoxify her own estrogens properly, or the estrogens that we take in from the outside, which are also a major problem. Now, in terms of getting back to the liver detoxification, you can handle those kind of things with natural medicine, as well as handling balancing a woman's cycle. I mean, historically in traditional medicines, it's something they focused on a great deal. But it also, if a person has studied that, which I have, it gives you a window into a woman's body that you cannot get any other way, other than studying a woman's cycle. So one of the main things is to try and normalize a woman's cycle. This is a great method of prevention of any type of cancers in a woman's body, is to normalize her cycle, and also to try and do that to make menopause easier as well. Because your average age of breast cancer is 50, and your average age of menopause is 48. So there is a relationship hormonally there as well. To get back to the detoxification of the liver, that is the ability of it to detoxify your own hormones, again, as well as the amount of estrogens that are coming in from the external environment, is possible through the use of, again, supplements and herbs. You can help the liver do things correctly, and you can also measure how it works with estrogen through the blood or urine by looking at the metabolites of estrogen. You can determine what are healthy and what are threatening configurations in the bloodstream or in the urine. And you can, again, balance how the liver detoxifies those things through getting an equalization between phase 1 and phase 2 in liver detoxification. So it's a big deal to make sure that things are being broken down, because once again, estrogen is a very powerful hormone, has very major impacts on a woman's body. Now, the fact that I mentioned this flood of estrogens coming in from the outside, one of the facts that proves that to be true is that 1% of the deaths from breast cancer are men, which is kind of astounding. That means roughly 450 to 500 men a year die from breast cancer. And of course, men don't normally produce high amounts of estrogen. But they can get lots of it in from the external environment, and that's where things really get kind of weird. A number of things become either xenoestrogens, which is a class of synthetic estrogens that can enter the body and are much more powerful than even the most powerful forms of estrogen a woman's body makes, and or things that mimic hormones and or depress function in the hormonal receptors or in the production of hormones in general. So pollution is a big deal, and that could be in the form of birth control pills, hormone replacement therapy, the type of hormones that they put in meats, feedlot animals to bring them up to weight, as well as, again, as I mentioned, soft plastics that act like estrogens in the body, and there are a number of other chemicals within our environment that work estrogenically. So again, to limit that intake of those, and also to increase the ability of the livers to excrete these type of dangerous substances. Another problematic area for estrogens, because once again, estrogen is a major player in all 4 areas of cancer. That is, in initiation, when the mutation and cancer cells are formed, in the progression, that is in cellular multiplication of that mutation and or cancer cell, in invasion, when the cancer surrounds invading tissue, and in metastasis, once the cancer has entered either the lymph or the bloodstream, traveled to a distant area, and usually produced a more virulent type of cancer that ultimately takes the client down. So it's really important to get a handle on this thing and to see it in terms of both a prevention program and in terms of helping women with breast cancer and all types of cancer and many other types of cancer that are also being influenced by estrogens. And again, that's not really looked at in things like brain cancer or lung cancer. However, estrogen is a player there as well, whether it's a man or a woman. So there are many other things that can go into helping the body get rid of estrogens and limit a woman taking in estrogens, as well as kind of thinking about the fact that these things are happening within a woman's lifetime. Therefore, they are preventable within a woman's lifetime. If you want to know more about estrogen and breast cancer, there's more information on my website, herbalistandherbs.com, and I welcome you to it. Thank you.